What if I told you that your biggest enemy isn't failure, rejection, or lack of talent, but something invisible, something you meet every single day? Tiny habits that seem harmless. One more excuse, one more delay, one more tomorrow. They quietly steal your power, your time, and your dreams. Most people never notice until it's too late. But one person saw the trap, faced the fear, and made a single decisive choice. In this story, you'll discover how ordinary days turned into extraordinary achievement, and how one small action can change everything. Andrew was like many of us, full of ambition but addicted to comfort. Every morning his alarm rang at 6:30, and every morning his bed won the battle. 5 more minutes, he'd tell himself, but those minutes stretched into an hour. By the time he finally rose, the morning sun had already claimed half his day. In school he wasn't a failure. In fact, he was clever, quick-witted, and capable of brilliance. But effort was something he gave only when pressure cornered him. Assignments were written the night before, projects assembled in a rush, and exams studied for hours before the bell rang. Each time he scraped by, he convinced himself he didn't need to change. But deep down he knew. He wasn't living up to his potential. He was wasting it. His teachers would say, "Andrew, you're talented, but you're lazy." He'd grin and shrug. Laziness had become his comfort zone, his identity. And like any comfort, it felt safe, until life demanded more than bare minimums could give. When his best friend David invited him to prepare for the scholarship test, Andrew nodded eagerly. "We'll do it together," he promised. But promises are easy when the deadline feels distant. Every time David called to study, Andrew had a new excuse: too tired, too busy, too soon. Weeks slipped away like sand through his fingers. The night before the exam, his book still lay unopened. The next morning, the test room felt colder than usual. David walked in ready and confident. Andrew walked in with hope and nerves. As the clock started, his mind went blank. The questions stared back at him like a wall he couldn't climb. He realized then that laziness wasn't harmless. It was a thief, one that had been stealing from him quietly for years. When the results came, David's name was at the top and Andrew's was buried at the bottom. He congratulated his friend with a shaky smile, but inside something cracked. Watching David move toward his future while he stood still was the wake-up call Andrew had never asked for, but desperately needed. That night he sat alone in his room. His phone buzzed with messages, but he didn't touch it. The silence felt heavy. He looked in the mirror and saw the truth he'd avoided. He wasn't unlucky. He was undisciplined. His reflection wasn't an enemy, but a warning. "What am I doing to myself?" he whispered. Tears welled up, not from regret alone, but from recognition. For the first time, he saw how much he'd lost by choosing comfort over effort. Days passed in quiet reflection. Then one morning, when the alarm screamed at 6:30, he didn't hit snooze. He dragged himself up, feet heavy, body aching for rest, but mind whispering, "No more." He started small, 15 minutes of reading, then half an hour of practice. Every cell in his body resisted, but he pushed through. It was far from easy. He stumbled, he complained, but he kept showing up. The boy who once waited for motivation learned something unexpected. Effort creates its own motivation. Slowly, the fog began to lift. Each morning felt a little lighter, and each evening ended with pride instead of guilt. The change didn't come overnight. Some mornings he slipped back into old habits, but instead of quitting, he corrected himself. The cycle of delay was breaking. He replaced "I'll do it later" with "I'll do it now." His energy grew, his focus sharpened. The same routine that once drained him now fueled him. Discipline became less of a burden and more of a quiet power. Months later, a new opportunity appeared, a national competition that could shape his career. This time, Andrew didn't hesitate. He studied daily, kept notes, practiced until midnight, and refused to rely on luck. Every hour of preparation reminded him of what failure had taught him. Consistency beats talent. When the big day arrived, he wasn't nervous. He was ready. The boy who once waited for miracles had built his own. And when he won, it wasn't luck. It was the sum of every small decision he had once been too lazy to make. That victory wasn't just a trophy. It was proof that he had finally learned how to fight for himself. Andrew's transformation wasn't magical. It was built on hundreds of quiet choices no one saw. Every morning he rose before comfort could whisper excuses. Every night he pushed himself a little further than yesterday. He learned that success doesn't belong to those who wait. It belongs to those who work. Over time, his teachers began to notice. The boy once known for excuses became the example others followed. His friends, once far ahead, now sought his advice. But for Andrew, the biggest change wasn't the recognition, it was the peace. He no longer felt trapped by his own laziness. He understood that the real enemy was never outside. It lived within him all along. The same boy who once lost to his alarm clock now greeted each sunrise with purpose. His story became a reminder that no one is born disciplined. It's a choice repeated every day. And as Andrew stood at the start of a new chapter, he knew this truth deeply. Comfort destroys growth, but action, no matter how small, creates freedom. Andrew's story teaches us something we all need to hear. Laziness doesn't look dangerous in the moment, but it silently steals your future. Every time you delay, you are trading your dreams for comfort. But the good news is you can fight back. Like Andrew, you can choose discipline, one small step at a time. And those steps will lead you to the life you want. So ask yourself today, are you letting laziness kill your dreams, or will you fight for them? If this story touched you, share it, like it, and subscribe for more powerful lessons.